Mhm.
it was just a really, really treacherous time. Fast forward to where I am now, 9 years later, I love my life. It's awesome. I've created a life that I love. But what I've realized is that a lot of people go through transitions just like I did.
Well, hey, everybody, it's Robert Barber with Be the Best Version of You, sponsored by the ROYI Academy. And we're here for another installment of our podcast and vlog series where we like to highlight just some of the greatest, like, shining stars in the world that are just trying to pour out positivity, impact life, help people be the best version of themselves, and even be the best CEO they can be of their life. And I'm here today with Julie Hruska, and she is from Awakened Life Coaching, but she also has this amazing health and fitness and yoga program. She helps people be fit, and she helps them be awesome, and she helps them get their whole being back together. So I'm super excited, Julie. Thank you for being here with us today, and I love it.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Um,
Awesome. Well,
like
cool.
Robert said, I'm Julie Hruska, and I am the creator and visionary of Awaken Life Yoga and Awaken Life Coaching. And I'm a certified high performance coach that specializes in helping people through their life transitions.
And listen, we're all going to go through transitions. And if you don't think you're going to go through a transition, you got a big awakening coming for you, because you're going to go through a transition. I have a friend who says that you're either in a storm, coming out of a storm, or going into a storm. That's life, period. So if you don't have someone coming alongside you like a Julie, you know what? You better maybe do a little more research. So, Julie, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your story and kind of just walk us along so we can get to know you, and maybe learn some stuff from you today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in the Midwest, followed a very traditional path, got married right before I graduated college. Actually, I became a elementary school teacher, and then I started having kids really young,
Yeah.
and I stopped working to raise my kids. And my firstborn had a lot of behavioral challenges and emotional challenges. Um, and some learning difficulties. So right away, it was like baptism by fire. I was
Wow.
thrown in at 24 to a child with some different needs.
Yeah.
And it became very challenging. When he was a year and a half, I had my second child. And so then it was like having twins, and I'm this mid 20s person trying to handle all of this. And I started to sink into this mode of mother and wife
Hmm.
and kind of lose my sense of self.
Wow.
Um, and that continued for a long time. As my son's challenges got greater, I started having a lot of anxiety,
Hmm.
a lot of stress in my life, and I didn't really know how to manage it. So I kind of retreated from life, really went into a mode of what I call now, what I recognize now as sleepwalking through my life. I was going through the motions, wake up every day, do what you need to do, go to bed at night, rinse and repeat, just keep going on kind of like a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And we got to the point where my son was about 8 years old and he was going to need a special school.
Hmm.
Um, and so the school cost a lot of money. So I decided I needed to go back to work. But after almost a decade of being out of the workforce at the time, I realized I needed to up my skills. So I went back to school online while I was raising my three kids and
Good
got
for
my
you.
master's degree, which
Wow.
was a big accomplishment. I ended up with a 4.0 in my master's, which was like, yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm really into high performance. But at the same point, it was a life just kept getting more challenging. And during my master's program, I left for the first time to go out to Colorado for a conference on brain-based gender differences. And when I was at that conference, it's kind of like the wool was pulled off my eyes.
Hmm.
And I realized that I really hadn't been present for
No.
years. I'd
Wow.
been going through the motions, and suddenly I wasn't a wife or Ethan, Sydney, or Aaron's mother, but I was Julie again. And it was terrifying because I didn't know who I was and I didn't know what I was going to do. I realized that I wasn't on a path that I had even chosen. I was raised, you go to school, you get married, you have kids, you quit your job, you stay home. I was just raised in that very traditional way. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but for me, I'd really lost myself in that. And so when I got back from Colorado, I sat my husband down. I'm like, I don't know who I am and I don't know what I'm doing. He thought I'd lost my mind. Um, but this started this form of hitting the reset button.
Gotcha.
And I didn't have a coach. I didn't know anyone to help me through that transition. And so I made a lot of poor choices. I remember I dyed my hair dark because I just wanted a new identity. And I started dressing differently and kind of like trying on different pairs of shoes. Today might be the Birkenstock form of Julie, and then the next day is the stiletto form of Julie. And I just really was spiraling. I was like all over the place. And it came at a heavy cost. My marriage didn't survive it. It obviously, anytime you go through a divorce, that has effects on your children and your family and all the ripple effects. So
Mhm.
it was just a really, really treacherous time. Fast forward to where I am now, 9 years later, I love my life. It's awesome. I've created a life that I love. But what I've realized is that a lot of people go through transitions just like I did, and they don't have help.
Right.
And so they spiral and they make poor choices and they hit the ground. And sometimes, it's when you get down to the lowest valley that you look up and you're like, help me. You're
Yeah.
just reaching up for a rope. And that's what I want to be for people. So now I've made it kind of my life mission to help people, whether it's a transition to a different job, a new city, a divorce, or just someone who wakes up one day like I did and is like, huh, look at this life. I
Yeah.
don't know whose it is, but it's not mine. And they reclaim their lives. So that's my story. And
That's,
that's
I
a
mean, the
short
whole,
version of it,
yeah, the
but
whole quote unquote sleepwalking through life. I mean, that is like, golly, it's just, it just resonates so much with me because, I've gone through very similar thing, with my family, and we've come to the same kind of realization, which is, totally different than, timing for you and timing for me and the way our lives are going. But every person that I'm talking to, that I'm trying to explain this to, it is either they think I'm crazy or they get it. There's no middle. It is something's wrong with Rob, or I totally get it, and I understand what you're going through because I feel those feelings,
Mhm.
and there's no middle. So if you extrapolate that out across the planet, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are sleepwalking, and it's unfortunate, and so I love that you are aggressively and audaciously just going after shaking people to say, wake up, let's do this. Yeah.
This is it. This is all you have, this very moment, and you don't know.
Right.
Nothing else is promised to us. And, I've learned it the hard way. I've watched people pass away unexpectedly. I've watched
Mhm.
people, young mothers and fathers, and even children pass away from cancer, car accidents. So many things can stop you in your tracks. And if we live like that, if we live like this could be our last moment,
Sure.
everything changes.
No, absolutely. It
And
does.
so that's kind of what I do. What I characterize the awakened life as is having clarity, vibrancy, courage, empowerment, and inspiration.
Wow.
And the clarity is like, who are you?
Hmm.
Where you want to go? And and that's like the cornerstone. You have to know that. And a lot of people don't because they're so busy
Yeah.
with life and going through the motions and going on that hamster wheel that they don't take the time to just step back and go, who am I now? What do I want now?
Hmm.
Where am I going?
Sure.
For me, for my family, for my community, for all of it.
Well, it's it was funny because I read a quote yesterday, and it just reminds me of this. Is because the reason I think a lot of times it's easy to fall into routine because it's comfortable, and change is not comfortable, right? And this quote, and I think it's a Mark Twain quote, and it basically says that the only person that likes change is a wet baby. And that's the truth. I mean, we for some reason we are conditioned not to like change, and we become very comfortable and very routine driven, but we don't see the dark side of that, of how that is not really living the best version of ourselves, because we've kind of just fallen into this binge watching Netflix, just you
It's a
know
form of stagnation and
yeah.
nobody wants to call it out, but it is. It's like a plant, it's either growing or dying. And we
Mm,
think that
ooh,
we're existing
mhm,
in this kind of place of plateau or just going along,
yeah,
going through life. And then we talk about the future, like when I retire, I'll do this, or when I make $500,000, I'll do this. And we start to set these goals and and then we don't move. They're like excuses to hold us in a pattern.
mhm,
And then, you just go through life like that. And it's unfortunate. So yeah, that's why for me, and then it's like I was saying clarity, vibrancy, courage, empowerment, and inspiration. For vibrancy, it's like the old saying back from probably even before I was born, they used to have it over locker rooms. You are responsible for the energy you carry into this room.
yeah,
And if you wake up every day and think about that, like, who am I today? And what am I offering the world with my energy?
right.
That little shift is enough. And
Yeah,
then, like you said, courage, like, people have to have a willingness to start and to
right.
step out in faith.
Yeah,
And that's probably one of the greatest challenges of most people because people will get that little like seed planted or that little aha moment. This
right.
is not what I want. But then when they look at what it will take to get where they want, it's like, oh,
Yeah,
stop. I
yeah.
don't want to do that.
No, it's exactly true. And and so the first thing, like for the ROI Academy, is our first thing in terms of our framework is we talk about faith, and faith really is it has a religious connotation to it. So people kind of get turned off by that, which you know that's fine. Me being I have a faith, and I have a worldview that I follow, but really faith is being willing to take a step, right? Because it's like being in a dark room and you have a flashlight, but the flashlight only works one step ahead of you, right? And so you have to have faith to take at least that one step. You don't know what's across the room.
Yeah,
You don't know yet. So but you have the flashlight, so take the step, then take another
absolutely.
step.
What I do know is that it's better than this place of stagnation and stillness. Absolutely better.
That's absolutely it. That is so good. You have fired me up so much today. This is so good. I'm really glad. I'm really glad we got a chance to connect, and I'm super glad that we have some time to talk. One of the things I always like to do in these podcasts is just to grab some wisdom from the person that we're connecting with and we're having conversations with. And so I know you've imparted a lot of your story, but I know you're full of wisdom. So maybe you can give us like 3 points, three wisdom Julie points that we can just really write
Yeah,
and resonate and just kind of marinate and digest.
right. So I'm going to focus on 3 points that will kind of ignite your life, your vibrancy, and your energy.
Okay.
One of the things involves a quick, I call it a meditation. People freak out when I say that, but
Okay.
it involves closing your eyes. So, Robert, we're going to do it together. Are
Oh
you
my
ready?
gosh, are we
I
gonna?
was not
Okay. All
prepared
right.
for this.
Okay. All right. Okay.
but but your game, it's good. And you listening, you can do this with us. So I invite you to close your eyes
Okay.
and take 10 nice deep breaths. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling, softening down.
Okay.
And then keeping your eyes closed, I want you to visualize the best version of yourself, the most energetic, vibrant, fully alive version of yourself. And in that, think about, what does that look like? What does that feel like? How do you interact with the world around you in that space? You don't have to answer me,
I
just
see.
doing that in your own.
I see a lot of smiling and laughing though.
And then I want you to come up with just one word that comes to mind when you see yourself in that way.
Relationships.
Relationships. Okay. So that's for the people watching. Whatever word came to mind, that's all about being intentional. So he had relationships. Tell me more about relationships.
So relationships for
What
me.
kind of relationships?
Yeah, no, for me, relationships, as I watched myself in that moment being the best version of me, what I saw myself doing was connecting with other people and laughing and smiling. And not only me, but them. And so those relationships of connecting um, was very fulfilling and very warm for me. And so relationships for me was what came to my mind and
Nice.
as being at the top for me.
And so what I would have you do is write that down, but I would have you take the word, you said warm and you said connection. So I
Yes.
like that. I would have you write down warm connection
Hmm.
because it's beyond relationships. It's how you show up in relationships, which is a warm connection. So then you would write that down.
Okay.
And every day for at least a week, I like to have you put it on a sticky note and hang it on your mirror.
Okay.
Um, so you wake up every morning and you remind yourself, today I'm going to show up in warm connection with
Mm,
everyone I'm in contact with.
that's so
So
good.
that's one way to start living a more vibrant life. It's waking up every day, being intentional about how you're showing up in the world.
I told you guys you need to call Julie. I told you. I
So
told
that's number one.
that's the one.
Number two, and I'm going into the health and wellness realm here, is to work on eliminating processed foods from your diet.
Okay.
And when I say that, people are like, and the word eliminate sounds extreme, but trying it for 1 week.
Hmm.
I say you can do anything for a week, right? So we find that processed foods spike your blood sugar, which leads to highs and lows and all over the map. And that leads to fatigue and irritability. So if you want to show up living your most vibrant life, you can't have that going on in your body.
No,
So
absolutely.
it's a very simple like thing for me to say, but in reality it's a little harder to do. And it involves like next time you go to the grocery store, you shop the perimeter. You
Right.
go to the produce, you go around and all of the boxed and canned things in the middle of the grocery, you just skip and see. Keep a journal, log it. How do you feel?
Gotcha.
Sometimes your body can react right away. It's like, oh, you feel almost worse because your body has an addiction to
Mm,
sugar caffeine, whatever it is
Yeah.
that you've had in your life. But you'll notice after a few days, you start to lift in your energy and you don't have the ups and downs. You don't get to that point in the middle of the day where you're like, I need a nap and it's only 2 o'clock. So that's my second tip
Okay.
for our
Okay.
audience today. And then the third one is to try something new.
Oh.
So, in the realm of brain based studies, we find that new things, new activities stimulate neural connections,
Hmm.
which light you up
Right.
and they lead to a happier, more awakened life. So, my challenge for the next week is that every day you do one new thing.
Okay.
So, it could be really simple as you drive to work a different way,
Ooh.
you try a new restaurant,
Hmm.
you wear a new color of shirt that you would never wear. Like for me, that would be orange. I don't wear orange. I don't own any orange. But what if I went to the store and I put on orange? How would that make me feel? Um, and then, yeah, a new form of exercise. Maybe if you have a partner, a new way to kiss them, just like the little
Yeah.
things that start to lift you, bring little peaks and little lifts into your energy. So those are my three hints and my three ways that you can very quickly add vibrancy and reignite your life. It's being intentional, waking up and having that word of how you want to show up in the world, eliminating processed foods from your diet. And I know that's when people are like, I might do the other things, but not this one. But I encourage you to try it because what do you have to lose?
Yeah.
And then trying something new every day for 7 days and then report back like, how did you feel at the
Right.
end of that week? And I really like my clients to have a journal and just write about it. Some people don't like that. Everyone has a phone. You can
Right.
type it in your notes. Like, how do I feel on Monday? How do I feel on Tuesday? And just so you can look back and say, wow, this really worked for me. Um, so those are my hints to live a
I think
happier, more weekend, more vibrant life.
I think those are great. I think, I think they're not only diverse, I think that they are all, pushing us a little bit more out of our comfort zone, right? Which was what we should be doing anyway, and to live the best version of ourselves. And this podcast has been fantastic, and the vlog
It's
part.
been so much fun. I've had a lot of fun.
Well, good. Well, good. Well, I think we all had a good time. And so if you're out there listening, please hit us up. There's going to be information that's either going to be linked down below or information that's going to be above, depending on what platform we're on. All of Julie's information is going to be there, how to get connected with her, how to, check out her websites and those kind of things. The podcast, obviously, it'll be across all platforms. So however you listen, whether it be Google Play, iTunes, or, whatever, it's on Stitcher, whatever you're listening to, Spotify now, which is awesome for podcasts. But it's across all platforms. It is Be the Best Version of You, and it's sponsored by the ROYI Academy. But again, Julie, I just want to mention that how, at least today, you brought some courage to me because I've got to know your story and, the obstacles and challenges that you faced, but you still smile. You still go after it. You're still positive. One of the things you didn't mention is, you had your son's, graduation this morning, and you're living your life intentionally, and it's so good to see, and it's an inspiration, and I've taken that away today, so I'm thankful for that. And whoever's listening, I hope you've gotten that today. So go back and listen to it again and again and again if you need the inspiration, but also reach out for Julie if maybe you're looking for a coach and you feel connected to her through this process. So anyway,
Thank
that's
you
about
so
it.
much, Robert. I loved it. It was lots of fun.
Good. All right. Well, that's the end of the podcast. And I always like to end everything I do by telling you that you're loved, because I truly believe that at least once a day, everyone needs to hear that they are loved and you are loved. So go out and have a great day, everybody. And that's the end of this episode. So we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you, everyone.